This season, we're exploring what it means to love with wisdom, not just emotion. Together with a special male co-host, we'll have honest conversations about boundaries in dating, relationships, family, faith, and everyday life. Through both the male and female perspective, we'll discover how healthy boundaries aren't walls. They're bridges to healthier relationships, deeper peace, and lasting self-respect. Welcome to Season 4, Boundaries, the bridge between love and self-respect. When many people hear the word boundary, they immediately think distance, rejection, or conflict. They imagine walls, ultimatums, or shutting people out. I think we touched on that a little earlier. But what if boundaries aren't walls at all? What if boundaries are actually bridges that create healthier, stronger, and more loving relationships? So today, for my audience, we are introducing the male perspective to Spoken Love Podcast. Season 4, Episode 1, and continuing on is going to be centered around boundaries. And the book is by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. So I want to introduce everyone to my mystery co-host here. How would you like to be introduced? Who would you like the
man,
audience?
the myth, the legend.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Mr. Benny Lee.
You don't want to give up your government just yet? That's okay.
Oh,
Mystery man.
They know your government?
No,
Everybody
they don't know my
knows.
government.
Just call me Vince then.
Vince, we're going to introduce the audience to Vince. Vince,
Yeah.
welcome to the platform. I want to know a little bit about you. Why does this book, Boundaries, resonate with you so much?
That's a really good question. So for years, I was going through several different situations, whether it be relationships, family, friendships, to where things were happening and I didn't really understand why they kept repeatedly happening, showing up. And I sought answers, right, from friends, some family members, therapy, right, books. And over time, I got a little piece in here and I would apply for various different situations. And some would work, some didn't. And I reeled it back to figuring out what the root of it was, because those were kind of anecdotal situations I can apply these tools to. But I kept coming up with having issues with my parents and my relatives, my sister, like some of the close relationships that I couldn't necessarily navigate well. So I just kept having concerns there because I was showing up in a particular way and getting disappointed in that relationship with how I wanted it to be, how I wanted it to manifest itself and grow. So I said, well, kept finding a different therapist to give me a different perspective, right? Because I would go between men and females to kind of get perspective on my situation. When I did that, I was like, okay, this last guy recently was like, I looked for somebody that was really rooted in Christ, but also has very specific skill sets based on where I was now in life. Because I really identified where these roots of these issues came from. And then having conversations with him, he identified some things in me that I never really knew existed, right? And it allowed me to put things in perspective completely different. It kind of rocked my world.
Yeah.
And this is of late, it's very recent. And he says, do these things to remind yourself of, to make some corrections when you're in these moments of feeling shame or guilt or reverting back to some old habits. So I started doing those things and I started seeing I was like, okay. I started feeling some change. And then I said, okay, well, next session, he was like, okay, well, how about you read this book? Because it sounds like you have a problem with boundaries. I'm like, what you mean? I'm good with boundaries. Like, I don't have nobody in my, like, what you talking about? I know how to handle people. He's like, nah. Read the book. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna read the book.
Yeah.
So, I got the Audible because I can process it in my notes and I'm in transit, and as I'm listening to it, it was able to define what boundaries was for me, which I didn't really understand it, really. I thought boundaries was how you keep people structured in your life, right, just at bay. But this goes into a whole nother spectrum of what boundaries are, and saying they're internal, they're external, you have different boundaries for different people and how to actually handle them. It gave it a lot more context for me to really understand it. So now it allowed me to now apply the tools from this book to apply it to my life. And I started seeing change and found less shame, less guilt, more peace, because I understood how to handle, well, for one, I was able to identify when those boundaries, what the boundaries were, identify when they weren't being respected, right? Because of, I'm getting too late about manipulation and feelings of guilt, which is another rooted thing, right? I was able to identify them. Once you identify them, it's like, okay, what do you do about them? So now it tells me about tools that I can apply to kind of mitigate some of those feelings that I get from other people and establish my boundaries. Just like I was telling you, right? Every day we teach people how to treat each other. We teach people how to treat us, right? So this is one of those things. This book really focused on how to coach people in a way, right, with boundaries, to treat you the way that you're looking for. Instead of blaming it on them, you taking ownership of what you will and won't accept, and in a way that's not confrontational, right? It's less that's off-putting and draining for you. Because a lot of times you say with your boundaries, like it becomes this thing. It was like, oh man, it's gonna be a tussle. It's like, no, once you find that it ain't me, and you understand clearly, okay, here's my boundaries, what I want. I'm just telling you, this is, hey, I understand you're upset. I don't want you to be upset, but that's your emotion. I don't own that. That doesn't change my position. Right.
So the book created like a framework for you, right? You recognized that something was a little off, that you were being challenged by this very personal relationship. Family dynamics do create those kind of conflicts. So someone with credential and understanding recommended the book for you. You delved into the book and you started to unpack some things. So let's start with what boundaries are not, because I think that's where many people get stuck. Right? The first misconception, boundaries are selfish. Why do you think so many people, especially faith-minded individuals, feel guilty when they prioritize their own needs?
That's a good one. I think because the word selfish has negative connotation. And people think, when you think of selfish, you think, I don't care about anybody else. But I've learned that boundaries is actually the opposite of being selfish. Because in order for you to understand what it is that you need and how you can foster healthy relationships, you have to be selfish. Because you have to understand what it is that you need, so it's not constantly being pulled one way or the other and having you in confusion, because now that comes off to other people as you're double-minded. Right? And it says in the Bible, right, double-minded man is, right? So if you're not selfish and take that time to really understand who you are, and you're projecting or your different personalities to people and allowing them to bridge those boundaries. It's like one day he's saying it's okay, another one it's not, depending on how you're feeling in the time. It doesn't necessarily create a solid structure in your relationships, because people don't know who to expect and what to expect from you, and you can't clearly convey when somebody is crossing your boundary and crossing those lines when it comes to what it is that you like and dislike. Right, like the saying,
stand for something or fall for everything?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Misconception number 2, if I love someone, I shouldn't need boundaries. Why do you think people often associate love with unlimited access?
I think it's because of the structure that they've identified love has growing up, what they see, because I think a lot of us, all of us in some way, have identified early on what they think is love, right? Because love is a word that evokes action, right? Triggers action or identifies itself with some action that oftentimes goes unspoken. We think automatically that because I tell you I love you, you tell you you love me, you automatically know what you're supposed to do to show it. There are two different things. One of them is the action of love, and the other one is how I feel.
Right.
And I can love you and not do shit for you.
Facts.
Or I can love you and do all the things I think is right for you that you don't feel is valuable.
Yeah.
So does it mean I love you any less? There's people that'll love you and beat the shit out of you at the same time. Like, I'm only doing this because I love you. Think about who does that first. Our parents. It's gonna hurt me more than it hurts you. As they're whipping you, beating your ass for something that you did wrong, because it might not even have been wrong, it was not to their liking.
Right.
So now they're beating your ass, telling you, I love you, or expressing love, and then feed you after. So we get trained in that is sometimes love hurts.
Right.
I'm getting trained at an early stage of, okay, this person said they love me, but they're hurting me, they're inflicting pain on me for me to comply with what it is that they desire for my life.
Yeah.
Right.
And that feeds into those subconscious attachment styles, right? How those develop from an early age, those things that are kind of programmed into your psyche and play out in your later relationships. That's a topic for another episode, but I think you gave a very eloquent
But
response.
I want to touch on that before we jump on, because that's a really
Yeah.
good one. I think it'll be a segue to the next thing you're probably going to ask is that I think there's a big difference in that type of situation that I explained, and which I experienced was, and I just talked to my dad about this the other day, and it was because he asked me the question, like, what do you mean? And I told him about the word abandonment, because he experienced it. And some people like understand what it is, some don't, or have a different understanding of various understandings of what abandonment. And I broke it down to him. I said, there's a difference between somebody, whether it be a boundary setting or a consequence of something in a relationship, and they say, I'm not going to do something for you, show up, and then they completely aren't there for you at all, right? They don't call, they don't show up because you asked them for one thing, but your relationship was based off of 10 other things. So they took away all the other 9 things because that one thing you couldn't agree on or they couldn't show up for you on.
Right.
And that's why I tried to explain it to him with abandonment, because a recent situation with my parental was asked for some help in one area. And it's historically has been the same thing, but I was able to identify this time as I asked for some help in one area. They said, I can't help you there. And I was like, okay. But the difference is their behavior completely changed, and they showed up, they completely, like, this distance and wasn't there at all because of that one thing. And I said, there's a difference in that, and I used an analogy for him and his friend who was attended from him and said, attended from him was, she didn't pay you the rent, you got to evict her, but you still hang out with that lady. You didn't abandon her because she's financially going through some shit and you have to evict her. Right. You still pick her up, you still hang out, you still talk to her. That's what you set a boundary saying, you got to pay me rent. I can't let you keep staying here.
Right.
But you still show up for her as a friend.
No, that's an excellent example, because the third misconception was boundaries push people away, and you gave a good example of how boundaries can actually strengthen relationships instead of damaging them, right? And operating within your capacity, saying that, my boundary is this because I want you to respect the fact that I have a business to run. I'm running this, you're my tenant, you need to pay. But if you can't meet that expectation, I can still show up as a friend.
That's right. But I can't let you live in my rental anymore.
Right.
That's setting clear boundaries. And that's something I had to learn that's for them. That people operate and function more better, those that understand and respect boundaries, with clarity. It's the gray area. It's the lack of understanding of how, if I don't do that, and also you constantly letting people bridge it. So they kind of let me pay late. I didn't this time, so I don't believe them. So I'm gonna keep staying here, or I'm gonna keep trying. Right. I'm gonna keep showing up the way that because you keep letting me do it, even though you said you won't accept it.
Yeah.
So now your boundaries don't mean shit.
Yeah.
And that was something that I, learned really early on in my life, and I'm seeing that because people use boundaries to manipulate, and others use boundary to set clarity in relationships. So that's where the gray area comes in. A
lot of the misconception and the stigmas around boundaries. Exactly. So I'm going to throw out a question for the audience to consider as we segue into our next topic. How many of us have mistaken access for intimacy with the internet, dating sites, everything where people are literally in your face? You can jump in their DMs. You have access to people, and sometimes you assert yourself in those environments and intrude on people's boundaries in spaces, not even realizing it, simply because they're accessible to you. So something to think about. But we unpack what some of the misconceptions of what boundaries aren't necessarily, but what are boundaries, right? Let's unpack a little bit of that. Question for you, Mr. Mystery Man / Vince. What is the simplest definition of a healthy boundary?
Setting clear expectations of how you want people to treat you, and identifying what it is that you will and will not accept, not only internally for yourself, but externally from others.
Absolutely. A summarized version of that could be what belongs to me, what belongs to you, and where responsibilities begin and end.
I'm going to say too, expectations of those. It's I would learn as a way. If you don't, right? Even with, as an example, with our kids and boundaries or relationships, it's, hey, I don't want you to cheat. Cheating is unacceptable in a relationship. If you cheat, you cannot step foot in this door ever again, and I will not respond to you by fill in the blank. Setting clear expectations. So if it happens, there's no discussion.
Right, it's a consequence.
That's correct. If you speed, you get a ticket. It says it clearly on there what happens after 30 days if you don't respond. You don't need to discuss it. That's what it is. Let's say, this is it. This is what happens. Your license gets spent after 30 days. I clearly said that. So what are we talking about?
So would you say many relationship conflicts happen because people don't know where their responsibilities end? Like where that consequence is, like they're kind of operating in this gray area. And a lot of times the human instinct is to, you give them an inch, they take a mile, right? They're going to push that lever as far as they can go until they actually meet the consequence.
So I would say this. It's something I just learned that my pastor was saying. He says, a lot of times people in their relationships, they don't establish, let me make sure I say this correctly. He says, people can't hit a target that they can't see.
Tell us about it.
If you don't establish clear expectations without a consequential reward, and it keeps moving, the target just keeps moving because you don't clearly convey what it is of your expectations. You just assume that the other person knows what you're supposed to do as a husband or a wife or a girlfriend, boyfriend, because you love me or because you're my sister or my brother or my parent and you don't say it, and you have these expectations based off of your own desires, your own history, your own feelings, emotion, and the other person doesn't know, you're setting yourself up. And he says, for 50% being disappointed. Like you're, he had a great quote. It says, you are setting yourself for premeditated disappointment.
I like that. Premeditated disappointment.
I'm telling you, go over there and go paint that wall for me. You should know what color it should be and the type of paint and how thick it should be. Because you're a painter. You're a man. You said you know how to paint. And you love making me happy, so go over there and paint that wall. You should know my favorite color. You should know how I want it to look, right?
Gotcha.
I don't need to tell you. I should expect you to disappoint me. Do you tell your employees, hey, I need you to go file these papers?
No, that's interesting.
So we set more boundaries and expectations oftentimes in our job than we do in our relationships.
That's facts.
Because we have clear criteria. If you're late X amount of times, you're going to get fired. You violate this rule, you're going to get fired. You're going to get reprimanded. You're going to get put on a PIP. You come in a relationship and it's kind of like, I guess we could, maybe.
So do you feel like, maybe another audience question, have you ever carried on the responsibility for someone else's emotions or choices and made them your own, carried the burden of that? Is that another underlying reason why people can't stand firm with their boundaries, because they take on other people's responsibilities as their own?
110%, I would say. That was an issue that I had, right? It's something I've learned. It's maybe just last 2 years. And me even saying that is jarring to a partner, right?
Right.
Especially when it's not haven't put in the work and doesn't understand what I'm saying and what that means. Because when I tell you, hey, look, I will not accept this, and then the person says, well, that makes me feel, and expects because of that, I'm supposed to change my boundary. So, and I said, hey, I'm sorry that makes you, and I've learned these tools again from the book. I'm sorry that makes you feel that way. It doesn't change my boundary or my expectations, but how can I help you with that?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, and I said, look, I don't own your emotion. You get to choose how you respond. And you also get to choose what you say. I said, otherwise, you're telling me that I control you. So if you say I control you, then everything I say you must do, right? So do you get to pick and choose how you handle every other thing, when you eat, when you shit, how you talk, so you're saying you get to do all of that on your own, but when it comes down to how you respond to me and other people, you don't have any control. It's their fault on how you respond to them. Make it make sense.
That makes sense. So then there's the opportunity to neutralize the conflict in how boundaries are interpreted. And that's when Jesus is at the center of it. So let's transition the conversation a little bit for our believers. I think many Christians struggle with boundaries because they're trying to balance grace, their service, and their love. And in your opinion, in your walk with delving into the word and different literatures and mentorships that you've been in, do you feel like Jesus had boundaries based on what you know of the Bible?
Oh man, so that's why I recommend this book so much, because every tool, every ideology, structure that he presents, he supports it with scripture in the book.
In the book.
Right? It says to you, he says, hey, this is what he said in scripture. It establishes that and delves into, hey, this is how and why, and here's what you do with that. Right? So 110%, I would say people can misconstrue scripture and use it against people as a weapon. It's part of the manipulation. It's part of people not respecting boundaries. Because when you use something in the Bible or in context in order to cross the line from where somebody says that the line exists, you're manipulating them.
Yeah.
No matter how you frame it, is they said, I will not accept. Now you're using a tool to say, I need you to remove that line so I can cross it. That's manipulation. Why not respect it?
Yeah.
Why are you even second guessing the challenge? They've established the line.
Right.
Why are you using scripture or something else to say, I want to cross that line?
Right.
You make a determination on if you're willing to respect that or not, or if that's a deal breaker for you.
Right. And Jesus demonstrated that in all of his ways throughout the Bible. You know, we see situations where Jesus said no. Jesus prioritized prayer over, being of service to others. Jesus allowed people to walk away, when he asked them or invited them to walk with him. So what can a modern Christian learn from what Jesus managed expectations and access? Like if Jesus is setting the standard, how does then that translate into our real life, right? How do we, I guess it kind of touches on what you already said, implementing some of those strategies into the day-to-day?
I'll say in the simplest form, I would say you have to believe in God. That was his rule. It was, you have to believe in God and follow these rules. He established rules.
Right.
In his walk, right? This is what I do. You must pray. You must come through me. He established those rules. And in doing that, this is where you will go.
Right.
And then doing that, this is how I will steward you. If not, then you won't. There's really no, only way to him is through me. There is no, you can go maybe through Wawa. Yeah. You might call my cousin. You maybe can go over through John.
Right.
I teach John. Maybe holler at John. John will get you.
Right.
He the plug. He can.
Right. Now you got a direct path.
Right. Go to James. Might be able to. He can go past. If I'm asleep.
Yeah.
James will get you there.
Yeah.
He know. I taught him. He was one of my disciples. He didn't say that.
He didn't say none of that.
So that's why I say where you learn from boundaries is if you can clearly say where the line is, which is a big part of it, you have to be able to say that, just like Jesus did.
Yeah.
There was no other, maybe here and there. No, this is what it is. And people function in that, because you know where the line is. There is no, you watch on the speed limit, you driving down 65-ish is the speed limit. It's 65.
This guy is
you know what I'm saying? Like,
hilarious.
certain stuff is just, it is, and you got the boundaries on the lines and the road. Like
on the road.
people function with that.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you creating a foundation, you say I want to be in a relationship with anybody, and you say 65-ish. There's no lines on the road, but I need you to stay within on it, right? It's kind of you'll figure it out. And always exceptions to the rule, but the majority of the time, there's no directional turn. You don't really know the speed. Things are just kind of, you're setting yourself up for premeditated disappointment.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm going to challenge that. So Jesus set the framework. We know what we're supposed to do. That's the standard. What would Jesus do? But why do we feel guilty? I think guilt is one of the biggest reasons people avoid boundaries. So why do healthy boundaries often feel uncomfortable at first?
I'm using an example for me. So it depends on what that is. Is it external or internal? Right. So for me, using myself as an example, I was nurtured by guilt. And I'm going to say a lot of black men have been nurtured by guilt. Oh, it's your mom. You should just, oh, but it's your parent. Oh, it's your brother. Oh, it's your, and they make you feel like, even though they're treating you like shit, or they're crossing your boundaries, or they're not showing up to you, they'll make it seem as though you still should show up for them because, oh, it's family. So you've been nurtured from a young age to still show up for people, even when you know it doesn't feel right. Even when they're not showing up for you the way that you need them to, and they're not doing the things and showing, meeting you where you are respecting your boundaries, I would say, early on. Right. So now you've been coached by guilt on allowing people to cross your boundaries. So now you feel as an obligation. So that obligation then translates into your relationships of saying, when people make you feel guilty, it means 9 times out of 10 that you're willing to let them cross your boundary.
What's that term that you always ask me when we speak? You're like, when I present a challenge or a concern, you say to me, well, what's your fear? Right? So guilty, the feeling of guilt is often underlying fear of some sort, right? What are you fearful of? They're going to stop talking to me. They're going to disassociate.
Fear of loss, abandonment.
Yeah, abandonment.
So that's the part of it. That was the second part of that, is that in that manipulation, right, of the guilt, oftentimes, if you don't do it, what typically tends to happen, what I mentioned earlier, is they pull back the love. So it's basically saying, if I don't do, I might be at risk of losing love and be abandoned.
Gotcha.
Because we've been coached our entire lives through that, is if I don't do what they expect me to, I'm going to get the cold shoulder from my parent or my brother or my whoever if I don't do what they expect me to, even if I know it crosses my boundary. All right, so that's a lot of unlearning you have to do from years of you being coached that way, because the majority of the time people want you to do what they expect for you because it's in their benefit.
Right.
Even though you know it's not right for you and you establish your boundaries early on, because we know what we like and don't like, and that grows and evolves over time, but that's where that really comes from. So now we start assuming, this was something I just learned in the therapy session, the new guy, was that he asked the question, when we have those feelings, whatever those are, negative, he says, ask yourself, and it's a 3-step process, but I'm just going to talk about this one, is it an assumption or is it fact? That's why I asked you earlier. Whatever feeling or thought that you have about the outcome, is it an assumption or is it fact, right? And if you can tell yourself, okay, I'm just assuming the outcome will turn into that. Right. Or has this historically happened with this person when this happens? So it's more like you could say it's just more fact. I have support behind this, right?
Okay, that's what you was asking in the moment.
That's
I was
correct.
like,
Because a lot of people function, if you're functioning out of assumption, it's rooted in something.
Got you.
Which is abandonment, love, disappointment, all those things that you fear might happen because that doesn't feel good. Because if you know your boundaries are what they are, right, and you shouldn't waver from them, everything outside of that then is saying, if I feel guilty, if I can make you feel guilty or feel bad about your boundary, I could potentially make you drop the line.
Right. Right. Well, I think this was a very impactful conversation. It was definitely for me. I think our audience will benefit, but more so walking away from it and unpacking what area of your life currently needs a boundary, whether it's dating, family, work, church, friendships, or even co-parenting. Those may be some areas that we unpack in future episodes, but in closing, maybe the peace you've been praying for isn't waiting on a new relationship. Maybe it's waiting on a new boundary. And just like that, another chapter closes. But the story of love and life never really ends. If these words moved you, share them, carry them, live them out loud. Follow Spoken Love Podcast wherever you listen, and meet me here again, where the dialogue stays candid and the poetry stays alive.